Welcome and thank you for joining us for this edition of the Marty Chronicles, part of the Conservative Take platform. Thanks for tuning into all of our programming on this platform. I wanted to look for a few minutes at what's going on, not just in the Ukraine, but there really seems to be some similarities between the Ukraine conflict and the COVID situation we just came out of. Now we have to back up a little bit in order to do that. I'm going to go back to 2016 because I am of the opinion that this country, or at least a certain segment of this country, has literally been under attack in one form or another for the past 5-6 years openly. Let's go back to 2016. Of course, Donald Trump wins the election to the chagrin of the entire left wing of the Republican Party and the rest of America. So what happens after he wins? Instead of the country coming together, the country, or that part of the country, we're suddenly faced with vagina hats. We're suddenly faced with screeching banshees in the hallways of the Senate while they vote on judicial nominees. We have all these things going on and much more. We have never Trump. We have not my president. That was okay. It was annoying. That went on through 2016, 2017. We, again, in my opinion, were exposed to a real segment of what we refer to as the deep state. John McCain, with his dramatic thumbs down for the vote that would have probably overturned Obamacare. We had the skullduggery of Paul Ryan as Speaker of the House, and of course the carpetbagger Mitt Romney and all that was going on with that. So we had all that going on through 2016 through 2017. 2018, we come up on a new election. And again, a lot of things happen in that election. The House flips. Some would suggest that ballot harvesting, which a lot of people never heard of before that, some would suggest that ballot harvesting had a lot to do with it. California, I'll give you an example. I believe it was in Orange County. 6 seats that were won by Republicans on election night a week later turned to Democrat. And maybe more important than that, the popular Scott Walker in Wisconsin was taken out as governor, and Rick Snyder, the Republican governor of Michigan, was term limited. Both of those might have had some consequences that came up later on. Now, with the House flipping, that led us to this gleeful effort twice to impeach the president for what we know today was absolute and utter nonsense, but it took a toll on the entire psyche of America. There's no getting around it. 2019, we're treated to nightly footage of major cities across America burning, of statues toppling in what were described as mostly peaceful protests. And then, of course, in 2020, COVID hits. And let me say this right now. I am not saying COVID or coronavirus, I'm not saying that wasn't real. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm not saying that it wasn't dangerous to a certain segment of the American population. But let's back up and look, now in hindsight, let's look at what was going on. While we were being told that the hospitals were being overrun, people were dying in the hallways. If you'll recall, President Trump sent a naval hospital vessel to the New York harbor because New York, New Jersey, and a few other states like that, Pennsylvania, where I live, they seem to have handled it more poorly than most. But that hospital vessel sat empty the entire time it was there. Not saying people weren't in the hospital. I'm saying that wasn't used at all. And at the same time, we're told that people are dying in the hallways. We're being treated to social media nurses dancing videos, well choreographed and things like that. Now let's compare that. Let's bring that forward to what's going on in the Ukraine. It's been going on a week and a half now, almost 2 weeks. And there's been a lot of, I don't know if it's misinformation, but a lot of questionable stuff. We started out with, remember the Ghost of Kiev? Turned out it was part of a combat simulator game. We had the sunflower seed lady, which turned out to not be true. So we had a lot of things going on. And also, we don't really know what the heck is going on there. I read 2 different reports yesterday from different military expert analysts. One says, hey, look, the entire country is about to fall to Russia. The other one says, yeah, Putin really did something stupid here. He's got this 40-mile long convoy that they can't even get food to. So we've got a lot of stuff like that going on. Like with COVID, I am going to suggest that we weren't getting good information for a long time with COVID. Go back to the hospital thing. I had a couple of surgeries while that was going on in 2 different hospitals. And pretty shortly after that, while we were told the hospitals were overrun, I was getting weekly mailings and emails from those hospitals saying, hey, if you've put off surgery, now's the time to come in and get it done because not a problem. So again, at least my firsthand experience, it wasn't really as bad as some were suggesting. Virtue signaling throughout COVID has been just this, we had the, if it saves one life, it's worth doing. We had the celebrities, thankfully, lecturing us on what to do and what not to do and serenading us with John Lennon rants from their celebrities. They told us today, the same celebrities are telling us to shut up and pay $5 a gallon for gas. It's the patriotic thing to do. And also, the other thing is, you hear this from elected officials as well as celebrities, well, just buy an electric car and everything will be all right. Almost seems like that's kind of the end game. We had the, if you don't wear a mask and get 3 or 4 shots, well, you hate grandma and puppies and you just want them all to die. Same type of thing is going on here, that there's a segment of the US population that seems determined that we need to actually physically get involved in what's going on in the Ukraine. I'm not even saying we don't. I'm saying I don't see enough information to say we should or shouldn't. By one account, Putin is about to go crawling home with his tail between his legs. By another account, it's too late. So we don't know. The same with COVID, and along those lines, in both cases, the goalposts keep getting moved back. Remember with COVID, it was always started off 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And then it was, when this happens, it'll be all right. When the vaccine comes out, it'll be all right. When the booster comes out, it'll be all right. And that hasn't happened. We've had a whole generation of school kids that maybe we've done irreparable damage to. I had read one time that babies cannot physically smile. They don't have the muscles developed to smile. They learn to smile by imitating the people around them, which becomes important. So I thought of that in a doctor's office not too long ago as I saw a lady holding her newborn baby. If that's true, we have an entire generation of kids that haven't seen people smile. They haven't been able to interact with people facially. So the goalposts keep moving, and it's the same thing in the Ukraine. When is it over? Is it over? Putin is moving the goalposts too. Don't kid yourself. It started off with, we have to denazify the Ukraine. Now it's turned into, they have to change their constitution to never, ever, ever join another alliance. The goalposts keep moving. Both of them remind me, I don't know if you've ever heard of the myth of Sisyphus. The myth of Sisyphus is a story of a man named Sisyphus who was given this task to push an incredibly heavy boulder up a hill every day. And every day when he got to the top, it rolled back down. And he had to start over the next day. That's kind of where we're at with the Ukraine. That's kind of where we've been with COVID for the past couple of years. So, and finally, I'm not sure who the mad scientist is here. I'm not sure who Fauci is here. Because again, there's so much misinformation and disinformation. Putin's crazy, in my opinion. He's a tyrant. The guy grew up in the KGB. And I grew up with a generation that was always concerned with what the Russians were doing, or the Soviets, and rightfully so. So Putin would probably qualify as a mad scientist. There's a lot of people that seem to have some insight into him that actually believe he might be mentally unbalanced at this point in his life. Remember, he just got over COVID. So there's people that think that that may be hindering him or hampering him. And Zelensky, something's just a bit off with him. I'm sorry, there's something, again, the whole Ukraine thing, there's something weird going on. And like with Fauci, after a while, I just don't believe anything coming out of anybody's mouth. Now, let's wrap this up. The point is, we have just spent 2 years shutting our country down over COVID. We can argue good or bad another time. I don't want to see, because of gas prices and things like that, I would hate to see the same thing happen to America all over again. But if you go back to 2016 at least, we seem to have this unending crisis from one to another. And my fear is that it happens again. Thanks for joining us today. And again, thanks for viewing all of the content on The Conservative Take. See you next time.